Hello everyone, this is Tetnock with Blades and Blasters, and I am here to do a slight tutorial for you guys. This will be a series of tutorials of how to use Roll20 from the most basic to the most advanced. Today we're going to be talking about just getting an account, what the different account levels are, and stuff like that, how to create a game. This is primarily for GMs, but players might find it handy too. Everything that GM might learn you would help a player as well. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about Roll20 and just what you get for what you're paying for. Here I have the actual subscription account levels up for Roll20. Your base account is a free account, and you get 100 megs of storage. And if you're a player, this might be 100% fine for you. I do always encourage people to pay for Roll20 in some aspect or another. If you're using it a lot, dozens of hours a month, I do really encourage people to support Roll20. It is a very nice tool, and there's a lot of things you actually can do with it. That's all really I have to say about the base account. For players, you have basically a fine, no frill type of access to Roll20. As a GM, this is where you really need, in my opinion, a plus or a pro account. Some of the things that I will teach you in this tutorial, you will need at least a plus account to do. There are some things that you would need a pro account when I get later on into API scripting and custom character sheets. Here you can see a breakdown, and this is just on the Roll20.net website on account/supporter. You can find that by going into your account on the site. You can see here that the main difference is you get all access to character sheets here for a plus account, and you can do custom sheets for a pro account. That is, you can either build your own sheet, edit a sheet that's already out there in GitHub or something, and or make your own sheet on the fly. You get that with your pro account. You see that there is also a upload storage difference. You have 1 gig for a plus account and a 2 gig for a pro account. 2 gig is actually not very much. Honestly, I wish they would give an option for more storage, but that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that later when we're talking about importing images into Roll20. We do have line of sight and dynamic lighting, all built on the Plus account as well as the Pro account. You see these advanced features. Yes, you can do Roll20 on tablet. It is, in my opinion, not very great. It's not really worked very well for me in the past, but if you can figure it out and it works better for you, and you can handle all the problems that it does have, then you can get that with your Plus account. You can see that the Pro account has a lot more stuff, dynamic lighting and line of sight, tablet support, FX tool, transmogrifier, and development server. Let me talk about the transmogrifier real quick. Transmogrifier is very interesting. Transmogrifier allows you to move assets from one game to another that you own. One thing that it will not do, if you're a co-GM of someone else's games, you cannot transmogrify assets in between that game and your own game. That's unfortunate. I wish they would allow that if you're a GM, but it's probably difficult to pass assets between accounts. That's really what it is, and that's the storage problem. The development server, if you have things you're going to play around with, like a different API, and you want to test it on the development server, or new features that Roll20 comes out with and hasn't pushed into production yet, you can go there into the development server as a pro account user. API. This is very important for people who GMs are very serious on taking advantage of Roll20 to its fullest. to use API scripts in their games. You don't even have to build the API scripts yourself if you're not a scripter. There are people that release these scripts for free, and they put them either on GitHub or usually there is a drop down to select them in your game, and we will go over that later in more of advanced talk about Roll20 itself. Forums, you get the Pro Forum, which is feedback to developers and whatnot. Looking for players, yeah, I guess you get more advanced and highlighted version of looking for players. It looks like up to 15 players per game, share in 5 games. Not actually, it's compendium sharing. Email support directly to the dev team, and more. Okay, so you see that you have an option of what to pay per month or year. $100 for Pro, $50 for Plus, or $4.99 or $9.99 a month. I really suggest Pro if you're going to do any of the API scripting, any of that sort of stuff. Just get the Pro account, especially if you use Roll20 quite a bit or planning on using Roll20 quite a bit. Here at Blades and Blasters, we use Roll20 extensively, and this is the only platform we game on. And so I really suggest everybody in Blades and Blasters, if you are a GM, to go Pro. It's really, the money is negligible if you really look at it per month basis, right? It's less than $10 a month. Roll20 is not perfect, but it has really come along nicely, and it gives us a platform in which to play all across the world, and I think they deserve some of our support. And so that's my suggestion. Plus accounts work great. It just depends on what you're doing and what you need. I do always, as I said, suggest people support Roll20 and at least get a Plus account, even if they're players, if they're playing a lot. So that is that. So that is the very basics of what you're going to do. The first thing is decide, what of these do I want? And as I said, when I go through this tutorial, some of these features that I will be showing you are based on Plus or Pro accounts. So keep that in mind if you're following this tutorial and you're wondering, where is this feature? I don't have it. It's probably because you aren't at the correct level of support for Roll20. So just please assume that this is all done from a Pro level account. Okay, so you've come into Roll20 and you've decided to get your Pro account, and you're deciding what to do. Now this is this is not what you're going to see, obviously, exactly, because I have a lot of games in here that I'm a part of, as you can see. Plenty and plenty and plenty. So the first thing you would do is you want to create a new game, okay? So here you see this big blue button, Create New Game, and you click it. Okay, it brings up this screen of what you want to create. We're going to assume for this tutorial that you're not using any predefined modules, as you see to the right there. A lot of these are Pathfinder or whatnot, and that is not what we're going to do here. We're just going to create a game and show you how to do it from scratch. Okay. So the first thing you do is what name is it? Okay. So we are going to, what game should we play? That's a good question. What is this game going to be? You have your character sheets here of what you want to select. Okay. Let's pick a game that I'm very familiar with. Let's pick a Conan 2D20 game. Okay. So as I went down here and the optional was choose a sheet, I don't have to do this. I can use a custom sheet as well. For now, we're showing you more of the basics in this earlier part of the tutorial. And So you would pick a game that already has a character sheet assigned. Some games do, most games don't. All your very popular games do, however, things like D&D and Pathfinder and whatnot, Call of Cthulhu, World of Darkness. Most of those games have character sheets. I don't know if Vampire 5th Edition does yet, but a lot of those do. And there are varying degrees of good. I guess that's a bad way to describe it, but some of them are very good, some of them are okay. Um, Most of them are done by just players, so you have to realize that it's just somebody who's hacking away at HTML, not done professionally. Some of them are extremely good. There's just some fantastic sheets out there, like Stars Without Numbers. That is just an amazing sheet. They're also it's from great to okay to not so good and all between. But for this, we're going to pick the Conan sheet. It's easy for me because I use it often. So you've chosen what game you're going to play and what sheet you're going to associate with it, and we'll give it a name, Conan sheet or Conan game. Okay. Now, a tag that you can put in if you want. It's not necessary. It's completely optional. The tag is for quick searching in your game. So if I want to give it a tag of Conan or 2D20 or both, I can. And then when I am looking at my games later, I can search by this, which I'll show you in a moment. So I say, I'm ready, create the game. It's that simple to create a game. And here I have it. And so you see, this is my front page of my game. And we're going to go into these details just a moment. I want to show you the tags just while we're here. So I go to My Games again. Okay, this is going to show all my games that I have. Okay, it shows this Conan game and all the other games. Now, say I want to find a certain type of game. I want to find Conan. Games that contain Conan. You see what it's done here. I have 4 total games with Conan in the title, in the tag. It's not even just tag. You can see this, right? The first, it will also search titles too. Because if you see the first game, Conan game, it has a tag of Conan in 2D20. The second 2 games have tags of Conan. And then the last game has no tags whatsoever. Okay? So you can see it searches both. So that is one way you can help to search yourself. Now, you can go over here to the right and click on My Tags. And it looks like it does the exact same thing, doesn't it? Even though Conan is just in the title. Okay? So this is a way to organize your games if you want. It's not necessary. It's just a preference how organized you want to be. And Roll20 does actually use tags a lot for organization. And so if we want to go to Conan, let's go back into Conan. Okay, so here with the front screen, there's a couple things we can do. Okay, you can see that there's plenty of options here. And what do these things mean? Okay, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. So we see here that the first thing we can do is we can upload an image for this game, just something to give it a visual for what the game is. So, just something nice. You can drag a file in here, or you can just choose a file. If I go to my desktop and I find a picture that I can associate with this game, we'll just pick this one, and it will upload it. Note that this does count against your upload limit, your file storage limit. So here you go. So I've uploaded this picture of the Conan 2D20 cover. So we have that. That's easy. So what do these other things do? Launch game obviously will bring us into the game. We'll get to that last. Content. If you click the content, it will show your chat archive in-game and external journal for your game. Let's click on external journal. Okay. There's nothing in here. It'll just show what's in the game without going inside. Okay. If I do this for a game, that is populated, because that game is not populated at all. We're building it from scratch. So if I go to, let's go to my other Conan game, and I go to content, external journal, and see what's in there. See, there's nothing in there. Oh, there's plenty. Okay, so here's everything that's in the game that I can actually look at from outside. Okay, that's interesting. I've really never used this before, to be honest. But I guess you can come in here and look at your characters or handouts or whatever from outside the game. I don't know necessarily why you would do that instead of going in the game, but it is an option. Okay, so let's go back here. Chat archive is pretty self-explanatory. It will show you your chat log from inside the game. You can see all the roles and whatnot and everything that's happened. So also not that important. Looking for players. So this is how you would go on Roll20 to enlist random players off Roll20 to look at your game and decide if they want to play it or not. I'm not going to go into this in any sort of detail. You can create listing. It's going to go in here, you create your looking for a group listing, and it will do that for you, and then you just follow the steps there. We don't do this, obviously, because we're our own play group, and we don't play with random people off Roll20. So there's that. Settings. So there's a lot of things in settings that are important. So I'll go through these in general for us. I'm going to go back to our other game, so I just don't click anything I don't want to. Okay, so here we go back to our Conan game. I go back to settings, and here are our settings. So game settings, let's do that first. Okay, allow public access to game. Do you want to allow people who search for your game to join it? Good. This is what we had just opened up, right? You can add different things there if you would want. Allow players to import their own characters. This is from the character vault, which is actually really nice, which we'll talk about later. You can do this. This is a way to quote-unquote transmogrify from one GM to another. So, for instance, I'm going to run a Star Trek 2D20 game. I've already played in a Star Trek 2D20 game. GM Zypher has a lot of great handouts and a lot of great templates, and so I had him upload those template files to the character vault and then import them into the game. That way I have access to them now. I can't transmogrify. He can't transmogrify, but we can do this. And I'll show you that later on. Access compendium in game. This is if you're using some sort of compendium, like a bestiary compendium for D&D or whatnot. It's kind of tied to a character sheet in this instance, or you can actually pick it. Okay. We don't use those. I don't know if anybody uses them, actually. I'll say that. We don't really run any of those systems there. Share my compendium with players. That's if you want to. That's what that share thing was from when we were looking at the count advantages. And then you see all this stuff, which is associated with that. It's character sheet. We can change our character sheet after we build it. Okay. And then down here is just like a little spiel about what you need to do to set up the sheet. Conan needs a rollable table, so it tells you there to set up your rollable table, which we'll be talking about rollable tables later. All right, that's the settings. If we go back to settings again, API scripts. I'm going to just show you this briefly, and we'll talk about API scripts later. This is where you import your API scripts. I don't want to spend any time on it right now. We will be having another part of this tutorial about API scripting all in its own. Not necessarily how to write them, but how to use them. And we'll give examples of how you use like Roll20 Audio Master or Token Mod or Torches, something like that. So that is where you would set your API scripts. And you can copy your game. I do this for backup purposes. It would just make a copy of your game, then you have two of them. You can clear your chat archive. So if you're in there for instance, and you're creating enemies for your game, and you're testing their macros or tokens, and you don't want everybody to see it, you clear your chat archive. Watch this. I'm going to do it because that's a good idea. So I'm going to go back to one of my other games and do this. So Star Trek Redemption, I've been working on some things that I probably don't want people to see. If I go here and I look at my chat archive, okay, you can see where I'm doing some things, right? If I scroll forward, and way forward probably, it might not actually be in my chat archive. It might not be far enough along. So I'm not going to worry about it, but I could clear this if I wanted. Let's go back to Conan. It is running a little slow today. I don't know if it's my internet or Roll20 or what. So you can just delete the game, or you can roll back the game, which basically, if I don't know what the date thing is, like when you can pick a date. So sometime between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. on the date selected above. So yeah, this is only yeah. So it says only backups for the last 7 days are kept. Anything beyond that will not be available. That's why I suggest to really copy your games often. I do it weekly as well. So just in case something weird happens, API scripts can cause issues from time to time. I've not actually seen it on any of my games, but better safe than sorry, right? So you can do a rollback from there too. Also on this screen, you can set what you're actually playing if you want to. Okay, so we're playing Conan. This is more to be searchable. And then you can set when next game time is. So we're playing early, it looks like. So I say the next game is going to be played September 28th at 9:10 a.m. Mountain Time. Okay, you can enter a description. Conan test game for tutorial. And then I'll put that in there. Game add-ons. This is anything, if you've bought anything through Roll20 that is associated, that you can, like the Roll20 map pack, for instance, I can try to add it to the game. It says it's been added. Okay, and then you can add like discussion posts to the game itself if you want. This is a history of Conan Chronicler, not even whatever, is awesome. Whatever, right? So you can post things in here as well in your campaign forum, quote unquote, and you can go back and see all that stuff. It just looks like the normal forum posts, right? You can see all the stuff down here. You can view all posts if there are more than one. So we've gone through all this. So the next thing you need to do is you can invite players here. So if you hit invite players, you can send it to an email address, which is weird, or you can just shoot them this link, which is usually the best, and then that will add them as a player to this game. And then you will see all your players in this box here. We're not going to do that because we don't need anybody to join just yet. And so this is the beginning of the tutorial of how to use Roll20. This is the very beginning, guys. Please stick with me. I will have more content for this of how to create your games and be successful on Roll20 and use them to enhance your role-playing experience. This is Tet from Blades and Blasters, and I will be back with part 2 of this tutorial soon. Thanks, guys.